Hey y'all, good afternoon. How are y'all doing today? I pray that y'all are doing well. I want to have a conversation. Actually, I did not want to actually have a conversation, but I definitely feel led to have this conversation. And so this morning, my husband and I, we went to work. This morning, me and my husband went to the gym before we went to work. And when we went to the gym, we typically try to finish out, after we work out, we typically try and finish out by going into the sauna. Now, I told my husband that when I go into the sauna, because it's men and then women, right? So I tell him, I'm like, whenever we go into the sauna, it's always somebody in this sauna having a full-blown conversation, as if other people are not in here trying to, rest or just soothe down after working out. Well, today specifically, while I was in the sauna, there was two other women in the sauna. Another woman who was on her phone and another woman who was just kind of like listening to music or whatever. She was listening to her headphones. So this woman that was in the sauna, she is on the phone with someone telling this person about a quote unquote friend, and she is telling all of this friend's business. And the entire time I'm thinking, you don't see other people in this room with you, and what she's sharing is a lot of personal information. And I'm like, not only do you not care that there are other people in this sauna with you listening to you gossip about your friend, but you're also sharing information with a person that I'm sure your quote unquote friend would not want you to be repeating. God bless you, Talisha. So I'm just like, y'all, I'm sitting in this sauna and I'm listening to this conversation, and I'm like, man, I knew that the Holy Ghost was going to have me to say something because I felt it in my throat. I felt like the need of opening my mouth and saying something in love to this woman, because maybe she just did not know, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm listening. Like, this is like 5-10 minutes going on, and she's sharing this woman's information. I'm talking about stuff that you would not want repeated, stuff that you probably told this person in confidence because you really needed to vent, you really needed to let it out, right? This woman had no problem just sharing it with the other person on the phone. And I'm talking within myself, I'm talking to the Lord, and I'm like, what would you have me to say? Because I felt like, when you're supposed to say something to someone, and if you do not say it, it's going to trouble you. Like, why did you not say anything? So I'm like, okay, Lord, what would you have me to say? Like, I'm saying this within myself. Like, what would you have me to say? So I'm like, okay, if it's meant for me to have this conversation with this woman, allow the opportunity to arise. So she got off the phone, and before I could even think, I was like, ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. And so she took her headphones off and she's like, yes. And I was like, your friend, what she's going through, she needs you to do more praying than you are talking about her situation. And she just looked at me, and I was telling her, I was like, I was not trying to overhear, but obviously we're in this room, so I'm hearing the conversation. And as I'm sitting here, I just know that I'm supposed to say something to you. And so, like, you need to do more praying for her situation than you're doing talking about her situation. And I was like, this situation, God can figure out for her, but she needs someone who is going to intercede in prayer and not speak on her situation. And so she was like, I go to church, and, I invite her to church, but she doesn't come to church. And I'm like, and that's okay. Keep inviting her. And to myself, I'm thinking, Lord, it's so many people that say they go to church. That's not enough. Because if you go to church and you don't understand the basic principle of someone coming to you with their personal issues and you taking it back to the throne, you taking it back to God, if you don't understand that concept, what are you going to church for? Because if you telling me that you go to church, but yet you're on the phone gossiping about someone else's business, that's terrible. And as I am getting ready to go to work, I go home, and it just troubled me. I was telling my husband, I didn't tell him all of what was, but I was telling him, I was like, that troubles me. Because I know that I've been in situations myself where I've vented to people trying to just get it out, not even realizing that these very people are looking. That's it right there. People look for an opportunity to sit and say, see, they're not any better. Because I'm listening to the conversation she's having as she's talking about this person. And she was waiting on an opportunity to say something about this woman. Like maybe she had things going on in her life or whatever, and she was waiting on an opportunity, and the opportunity presented itself because right now her life looks, it appears to be in shambles. But understand this, like God already knew what was going to happen before it even happened. He already made a way before it even happened. And so that's why it's important that when you're sharing something with someone, if that's what you choose, make sure it's someone who knows how to talk to God and not talk to people about your situation. Make sure it's someone who is going to pray for you and intercede for you instead of gossiping about you. So I wanted to read Proverbs 20:19. It says, he that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets. Therefore meddle not with him that flattereth with his lips. We don't even want to be around people who go and they speak so much. You talk too much. You want to speak highly of others. You want to speak highly of me. You want to speak highly of whomever you speak highly of. But the moment you have an opportunity, you go forth and you share things that you shouldn't even be sharing. You tell things that you know you shouldn't even be telling. It tells us that we shouldn't even meddle with them. We shouldn't even be in communion with them. We shouldn't even want to be at the tables with these people. Ephesians 4:29. And that's why it's important, man. I'm telling y'all, I would pray before I even knew God, before I even had a relationship with God, before I was even seeking the Lord. I would pray that whoever is not meant to be in my life, please remove them. And as much as it hurt, and as much as I was growing closer to God, and he was showing me how people did not have the same intentions for me that I had for them. People did not love me the way I loved them. People did not look at me and hold me to in a standard that I held them. It hurt, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful now that I understand I don't have to go to people to talk to people about my business. I can go to the Lord, the one who can fix it, the one who can heal, the one who can hold my secrets, and the one that can hold the weight of the pain and the suffering and the situation, and then also have a solution. Now, I'm not saying that we won't have people in our lives that God has sent and ordained to be in our lives that on occasion we may go to and share things with. But they also know how to take it to God. And they're not going to go and call the next person up to say, hey, this is what's happening. Hey, this is this and this is that. Or want to tell their side of the story. Who cares about a side of a story? I don't care about proving nothing to nobody. And at one point I did. And even God was dealing with me in this situation about how I would go and try to go and share my side of the story. Try to share what was happening in this specific situation. It doesn't matter because people have already decided what they were going to decide about you before you even wanted to share your side. At the end of the day, there's no need for me to share my side of the story because if you know who I am, then you know that if I did say that thing, what led her to even say that? What led her to even behave that way? What led her to even do that? Because I know her character. See, there's a lot of times people want to share a piece of a story, a piece of a situation. They don't want to bring about all of what it was. They don't want to tell about what they did. So there was a situation even in my home with my boys, where one of them came to me and was telling me something and I'm listening and I'm like, well, I'm hearing you share with me about what the other person did, but what did you do? What did you do? Because see, when you're talking to me and you're only sharing one person, It's only you talking to me, and it's only Talisha, and you never said and I and we, and then that tells me you lack accountability. That tells me you lack looking in the mirror and seeing where you're the problem. That tells me you lack the space of asking the Lord to show you yourself. Because when I say something about something, baby, I'm going to tell you what I did, what I didn't do, and baby, what I wanted to do. Accountability, you cannot run from it. We cannot continue to deflect and try to push things off and not deal with ourselves. Even in the situation that happened this morning, listening to this woman gossip, the Lord is reminding me of even times where I gossip, knowingly and unknowingly. He dealt with me even in that. And if God is always talking to you about somebody else, quote unquote, God is always talking to you about somebody else, but he ain't never talking to you about yourself, maybe you're not talking to the Lord. Because one thing I know, and two things for sure, is he's going to show you yourself. He is going to deal with you. When I first got to church, I would go to God and I would tell him, about my husband and about my kids and all that. But what about Tiara? What about your anger? What about your envy? What about your slick tongue? What about you being ready to pop off? My kids asked me, it was a couple months ago. They were like, probably about a month ago. They were like, Mom, what was the worst thing you did when you were mad at Dad? I said, oh, baby, I used to try to throw hands. And they were like, for real? Yeah, I for sure did. And it didn't matter why I was upset. Because the question was, Mom, what did you do when you were upset with Dad? They didn't ask me, what did Dad do to make you upset? Because at the end of the day, it was not justified. Some of us try to justify our actions based off of what someone else did. But who gonna show love? Who gonna be the bigger person? Who's gonna make peace? Love you too, Pastor. Love you too, Evangelist AG. I know all is well. Who is gonna make peace? It's so easy. It's so easy to say, oh, I ain't gonna deal with it and whatever, and try to prove a point. But sometimes you're trying to prove a point with the wrong person. Especially when that person is choosing peace. Especially when that person is choosing love. Especially when that person really want to go there, but they know that God is going to deal with them. And so they choose not to. I'm going to share this testimony with y'all. I wasn't planning on it, but we're here. And like I said, God deals with you first. So I resigned from the job that I had as the assistant director. I needed something different. I needed more time with my family. I needed more time for myself. I needed more time with my church, all of that. And at the end of the day, there's no title that I want that is going to make me lose who I am, my trust in God, and revert back to who I was. Baby, no. Lord, ain't no title. I don't care if I was the president of the company. It ain't worth it. All the money in the world, it ain't worth it. I love my family. I love myself. I love my God, my big God, okay? And I love my church. And I don't want anything to draw me away from that. That's my peace. That's my, man, I can't even explain it to y'all, but that is where I'm able to function. Having all of that balance, and that's where I'm able to function. So anyway, I resigned from the position. God answered a prayer. I mean, he answered that thing so quick after he showed me myself, okay? So as I was in the, they were doing an exit interview with me because my administrator was like so shocked. She was like, why are you leaving? Like, we don't want to lose you. And I had to tell her, like, listen, I don't know if you know what be going on over here on the nursing side of this building, but baby, this is a hot mess. And it is not our nurses. It is not our assistant directors, baby. It is it is the person right up under you that is the problem here, okay? And she began to ask, like, have you ever had this conversation with her? I was like, I have. She was like directly, like how you're telling me. I'm like, how I am led to share with her, I have had this conversation. Because understand this, when you truly are a servant of God, right? You've got to do things, and you've got to say things, and you've got to do it the way God has told you to do it. So if he has asked you to do a gentle touch and proceed in love and all these things. Now there's times that he's like, no, you gotta, there's times that you have to do things gently, right? Because you have to show people the love of God and all those things, right? Patience, long suffering, all of those things, right? And so she wanted to do an exit interview with all three of us. So we did an exit interview, and I told her straight up, I said, listen, you are a great director. You are very informative. I just cannot work under you. I just can't. She got offended. I then went to go tell her, examples of how I did not feel supported in my role, and, just different things of how she went over my head, and which these are conversations we have already had, right? She then proceeded to attack everything that I said. Everything that I shared with her, she attacked it. She deflected. She did not want to deal with what I was saying to her. She wanted to push it off of her. I had to bite my tongue. I had to choose peace and love. That was not the time for me to spew anything else out of my mouth, because God knows, he knows his child, okay? Had I said anything else, it would not have been a good conversation. I already said what I needed to share with her. It was not my turn to try to prove a point. It wasn't my turn to try and say, oh, well, this is it. But you want to know what God did? As I just sat there and stared at her, and baby, tears were rolling down my face, because sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it is challenging. Sometimes it is difficult to bite your tongue. Sometimes it is a challenge not to tell somebody what your flesh wants to tell them. I chose love, patience, long suffering that day. But you want to know what God did? As she was saying what she was saying, and I just continued to just stare at her, and the tears were flowing, not because of weakness, but because sometimes it is a battle. Sometimes it is a battle. Man, the spirit is willing. The flesh is weak. The administrator stepped into the conversation, and she said, I'm going to go ahead and just come right in right here, because this is not what I wanted for this conversation. We're already losing you. We've had you as a floor nurse. We've had you as a case manager. You also were assistant director here, and we're very appreciative of the time that you were here. I wanted this to be an opportunity for us to know where we can grow. And I feel like this is starting to become hostile conversation. But you want to know what God did in that moment? God allowed the administrator over the building to see what others are dealing with here. Yeah, that nice, bubbly, laughy, all of that lady who she presents herself a certain way. No, but when you hold her accountable, she doesn't like it. So she spews things out of her mouth to try and not take accountability. And unfortunately, we are adults. No, fortunately, not unfortunately. Fortunately, we are adults, and at some point we are going to have to learn accountability. At some point we are going to have to learn that you cannot throw a rock and hide your hand. You cannot think that people are just going to take whatever from you. And just because someone is a follower of Christ, just because someone loves God and chooses God every day, does not mean that they do not have feelings. Does not mean that they do not want to really go there with you. It does not mean that they it doesn't mean that they are weak. It just means that they know that if they do what their flesh wants to do, the Lord is going to deal with them. And at the end of the day, we fear God more than we fear man. So yes, there is a certain way that we have to conduct ourselves. There's a certain way that we have to have conversations with people. There's a certain way that we have to deal with the situation. And when we have given it over to the Lord, that means that it's not my battle to fight. It is truly in the hands of God. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I would repay. God will repay. Our pastor said this, I think a year ago. Man, when I give it to God and let God fight on my behalf, I'm scared for you. It's better if I took care of it. Because when God sees the long suffering, the crying, the prayers, all of these things that and then when, we have got to be mindful, speaking the wrong thing, entertaining the wrong conversations, gossiping. Ephesians 4:29, it says, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. No corrupt communication, gossiping, lying, spreading false narrative, cussing folks out, belittling people, trying to make people feel lower than others. Let not these things come out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, building up, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. Because are we not here for the kingdom of God? Are we not here to do the will of God? Are we not here to build up his people? Are we not here to share our testimonies of how God delivered me, how God healed me, how God brought me out of my darkness, how God loved me despite how terrible I was and am? Are we not here for that? Like, how much time do you really have in your day to talk about other people, to lie on other people, to try and break people down? What are you battling in your life that you have to tear someone else down to make yourself feel good? To do malicious things, to try to hurt people. Oh God, I don't want to share that. When you purposely, God, give it to me how you would have me to say it. When you purposely try to tear someone down in a way that you know cuts deep, in a way that you know in your mind, it's like, oh yeah, if I do that, then I know that'll get him. I know that'll get her. You got to be careful when it's someone who really depends on God. You got to be careful with that. Being vindictive, being hateful, being spiteful, being evil. Because what spirit is that? That ain't none of God. To try to destroy someone and make it seem as though that's not what you're doing, when you know that's what you're doing, to try to prove a point. You got to be mindful with that. I don't care. There are just certain things that's just off limits. There are just certain things that are just off limits. And you got to be mindful with those things that are off limits that you try to poke at. Especially when it comes to someone who gives their all to God. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. When we don't want to forgive, when we don't want to follow peace, when we don't want to love, when we don't want to be patient, when we don't want to be kind, all the things that are fruits of the Spirit, by the way, I just wonder, what if God had decided that about you? What if that was your fate? That you weren't forgiven, that you weren't loved, that you don't have any grace, that you don't have any of these things. Because God decided that you're not worthy of it. So I'm not going to give it to you. Don't even sound right, does it? So then who are you to try to say that you're not going to do the same for someone else? And who are you to say that you are a child of God when you don't know how to do that for someone else? And if you don't know how to do that for someone else, then ask God to show you how to do it. I have had to ask God to show me. Elder White was talking about that last night. Creating me a clean heart, oh God. And renewing me the right spirit. God, show me how to love the way you love. It's just a matter of us asking and then doing. Being hearers and doers. It's a choice at the end of the day. But you cannot allow yourself to seem or appear a certain way, but truly the inside of you is dark and crooked and evil and just malicious. As I was listening to this woman talk, someone else listening to her might have thought that she was coming from a good place, because she kept saying like, you know, man, I feel just so bad for her. Like, my heart goes out to her. But if you truly felt that way about this friend that you're gossiping about, you would be led to pray for her. You would be led to see about her more than you are sitting here on the phone gossiping about her business to someone else who does not even know her. In front of other women that are sitting in the gym just trying to sit in the sauna so they can detox, child. It's hot in there. And now I got to listen to you gossiping and telling all this girl's business. And then I would like to know, the people who hear these conversations, at what point do you open your mouth to say, I don't want to hear that? How about let's pray? That ain't no friend for you to sit up here and be gossiping and telling nobody's business. Because then now what that tells me is you were waiting on an opportunity for you to sit up here and share something negative about my life because you don't want to deal with your own life. Because anyone who got time to sit on a phone and gossip about my life, baby, what's going on at your front door? What's going on in your home? What's going on in your heart? Where is your man at? Where is your kids at? Do you even have a man? You gossiping about somebody else's situation. What about your situation? When are you going to clean up your house? When are you going to deal with your problems? When are you going to take accountability for what you're doing? Chapter 5 says, Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanliness and covetousness, let it not be once named among you, as becometh saints. Once you have become a saint, once you have said and declared out of your mouth that, hey, like, I know the Lord, and I'm following him all the days of my life, and I'm holy, and I'm a minister, and I'm a disciple, and I'm all these things. The things that are in your past should not be named into your present. Right? I used to club. I used to party. I used to drink. I used to smoke. I used to fight. I used to cuss you out. All of those things. That shouldn't be spoken about my today. That shouldn't be something that's said about me today. I used to hate. I used to hate, and I would tell you I hated you. That should not be said about me today. I should be walking in love. The things that come out of my mouth should be able to edify God and to build people up. Not necessarily building them up in a boastful way, but like, you look good today. Like, keep smiling. I love you. I like your hair. Not tearing you down. Girl, what you got on? Ugh, that's ugly. Let's be mindful. Let's be mindful of the things that we speak over others. Let's be mindful of the things that we speak over ourselves. Let's be mindful of the things that we speak over our children, over our home, over our marriage. Let's be mindful. You know how when we were younger, our parents would say, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Yeah, let's keep that mindset. Let's watch what comes out of our mouths. And for goodness sake, let's be mindful of who we are sharing our business with. Because the very person that you're gossiping to is the very person that will gossip about you. Everyone does not need to know what you got going on. If you don't know how to pray and take it to the Lord, I don't want to tell you nothing. And even that is very select people. I don't care who it is. If your mama do not know the Lord, stop telling her your business. If your auntie do not know the Lord, stop telling her your business. Your auntie and your mama may not even be happy with your marriage. Your brother, your sister may not be happy with your promotion. Your best friend may not be happy about that new car you just bought. Stop thinking that because people have titles in your life, that people have known you since you were born, since you were 3, since you were 5, since you were 10, y'all 8 spoon coons, y'all been knowing each other 30 years. Stop thinking that that means that they love you with the love of Christ. Stop thinking that. Let's pray for some wisdom and some discernment here. Because the conversation that I had to hear at this gym, I'm like, you would think that this was an enemy. The way this girl is sit up here telling this girl's business. And yeah, I sure did let her know, like, she needs you to pray for her more than you are talking about her. Invite her to church. And then for you to tell me that you go to church and she don't ever want to go to church, well, you need another church or something, because they're not teaching you something. Because why are you gossiping? And then if you know the Lord and you're hearing these conversations, you open your mouth and tell people where they're wrong at. And then if they receive it, let them receive it. And if they don't, kick off, dust your feet and take your peace with you. You ain't got to argue the truth with nobody. Once I done said what I said, that's it. I'm not going back and forth with you. You're wrong. Stop talking about the girl. That's it. We don't have nothing else to talk about. Moving on. After I said what I said, I went right back into my phone and did what I was doing. Because there's no conversation that needs to be had. I said it with love. I said it with patience. I said it with kindness. There was nothing else that needed to be said. So that's all I got for y'all. I love you guys. Be mindful of what you are sharing with people. Be mindful of who you're talking to. Be mindful of how you treat people. Be mindful of all of that. Be mindful with your actions. Because you'll do something to try to destroy somebody, but you don't even know you are literally digging yourself a ditch. Be mindful. Before you make that decision, you better ask the Lord, how would you go about it? Them little bracelets that say, what would Jesus do? He sure wouldn't lead with anger and envy and malice and strife and trying to prove no point. Ain't no point to prove. What point are you proving here? Because if you trying to prove a point to me, all that's showing me is that's just who you are. You're proving to me how I need to deal with you moving forward. Be mindful. Lead with love and patience. We got to get that thing. We got to understand love, real love. It's okay to have boundaries, but you better learn how to love. We have got to know how to love. I had to speak to somebody that at one point in my life, I said, if I ever saw this person again, I would spit in their face. And you know that is like so disrespectful. Like to spit. in someone's face is disgusting. But that's how ignorant I was, y'all. That's how dumb I was. And I had to speak to this person. And when I spoke to this person, I was like, man, all of that is just gone. All of it's just gone. It don't even matter. You know you was wrong. I know you was wrong. But at the end of the day, it does not matter. It don't. So I love you guys. I pray that y'all are well. I pray that this helps somebody. It helped me. It sure helped me. It sure helped me. Okay. And if you're looking for a church to come out and fellowship with you guys, I invite you to come over to True Praise Spiritual Church, where we worship God in spirit and in truth. We are located at 440 Shelby Road in Everman, Texas, 76140. We are under the direct leadership of our pastor, Pastor Dietrich Hicks, and our church administrator, Deacon Joe Hicks, y'all. I love you guys, and I pray that you guys are having an amazing day, and just get an umbrella because it's raining. I'm about to make it home. All right. Love you. Bye.